From a $413 million inheritance from their father, to amassing wealth after marrying a lady that came from a wealthy family, and even losing almost everything after an investment went bad, this is every US president's wealth explained. Wait till you hear of the one that actually went so broke he had to mortgage his home. Let's start with the broke brigade, whose wealth never made it past the $1 million mark. While we're at it, we have to note that the amounts mentioned in this video are adjusted for inflation as of 2020. First up in this list is Ulysses S. Grant. After leading the Union Army, he thought he had cashed in. Shock unto him, he lost it all to one of America's earliest Ponzi schemes. Shockingly, the scheme was orchestrated by his son's business partner. In the end, the most powerful man was left with a meager $80. With cancer closing in quick, he used the little time left to write a couple of memoirs. That move paid off, as after his death, the memoirs became a bestseller and earned his family a whopping $450,000. Woodrow Wilson, on the other hand, was a scholar first, having worked in Bryn Mawr College and Wesleyan University before becoming a professor at Princeton University. Even as president, his life was modest. Wealth never followed him into the Oval Office. Another guy that finds himself in this category is Andrew Johnson, who rose from a tailor in Tennessee to the presidency itself. Moving on, James Buchanan was born in a Pennsylvania log cabin. However, he managed to get a decent education and later practiced law in Lancaster before he climbed from congressman to a U.S. senator and secretary of state before eventually occupying the highest office in the land. Despite decades of public service, his peak wealth never exceeded $900,000. And if there's a president that proved that even a high-flying collector of the Port of New York couldn't hold on to riches, it's Chester A. Arthur. Although his salary and perks totaled about $1 million, his lavish spending on fashion and a New York townhouse left him with under $1 million at term's end. Next up, we have Abe Lincoln, the guy that went from frontier lawyer to president. His salary of $750,000 and legal earnings were barely enough to get him through life. After his assassination, his wife Mary is reported to have been financially strained. James A. Garfield also started life in a log cabin in Ohio. He worked odd jobs just to make ends meet and afford his law education. All these paid off as he later became a lawyer and then went on to spend 18 years in Congress. When he reached the White House, his personal assets were still minimal, with estimates still placing his peak wealth at about $800,000. Enter Silent Eye Cal, who got into the presidency with about $125,000 in savings, probably from his previous stints as city councilman in Northampton, Massachusetts, and governor of Massachusetts. Even after becoming president, Coolidge lived with thrift rather than luxury. Enough with the penny pinchers, let's up it a little bit and look at the mini-moguls that have occupied the White House. Starting with William McKinley, who was born to a working-class family with a father who was a coal miner and store owner. McKinley made the bulk of his fortune through his legal career, investments, and eventually his political career. He would later hit rock bottom during the Panic of 1893, but managed to rebuild again, with estimates putting his peak wealth at about $1.1 million. Next up is Rutherford B. Hayes, who built a solid law career in Cincinnati before marrying Lucy Webb, the daughter of a wealthy Ohio family. With this marriage and the presidency at hand, Hayes was set for life. His peak net worth is valued at about $3.5 million, plus a 25-acre Ohio estate. Another guy that married into wealth is William Henry Harrison, who married Anna Tuthill Symes, the daughter of a wealthy New Jersey family. He had also inherited land from his father, but died just 31 days into office, meaning he didn't earn much from the presidency. His wealth is estimated to be about $7.1 million today. The Mini Moguls Club also includes Warren G. Harding, who, just like Hayes and Harrison, married into a wealthy family. Together, they built a comfortable income, with estimates putting Harding's net worth around $1.5 million in today's dollars. Then there's Benjamin Harrison, who inherited some land from his old man, and also grew his own law practice until it became a global affair. In fact, at one point, he represented Venezuela in a boundary dispute against Great Britain. His fortune is estimated at about $5 million today. President Franklin Pierce also built his wealth through law and investments and also married the daughter of the Appleton family, whose father ran Bowdoin College. His wealth is reported to have peaked at about $2.1 million. William Taft made quite a fortune through his career as a lawyer and judge before climbing the ladder and eventually becoming president and later Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yet, despite all these, he never struck gold, with his peak net worth reported to be about $3.6 million. Another lawyer-turned-president was Millard Fillmore, who had no massive inheritance. His fortune, estimated to be about $4 million, was mainly amassed through his law practice, investments in banking and real estate, and from his marriage to Caroline Carmichael McIntosh, a wealthy widow from New Jersey. Harry Truman entered the White House nearly bankrupt after failed business ventures. Yet after his term, he managed to pull off an impressive turnaround through selling his memoirs and land holdings, both of which saw his fortune balloon to about $6 million. Dwight D. Eisenhower also had quite a modest lifestyle and never really made big bucks. Apart from being president, he also bought a farm in Gettysburg and authored best-selling books after office. Notable examples of some of his books include Crusade in Europe and Mandate for Change. Peak net worth? A cool $10 million. Gerald Ford's breakthrough really came after office, thanks to speaking fees. Some reports claim that he earned up to $40,000 per speech. He also sat on the boards of big-shot corporates such as American Express, General Electric, and Procter & Gamble. All these pushed his net worth to about $9 million. Then there's Zachary Taylor, a wealthy plantation and slave owner that made his way into the presidency and whose peak net worth is about $7 million. Have you heard of a peanut farmer that rose to become president of the U.S. and a Nobel laureate? That's Jimmy Carter. Apart from all that, his post-presidency books, speeches, and humanitarian work also helped him amass a fortune worth about $10 million. What about the $10 to $50 million club? The first member here is none other than James K. Polk, who made his wealth the ante-up way. He inherited more than 8,000 acres from his father, plus dozens of enslaved workers. He then doubled down and turned that into a cotton plantation in Mississippi and Tennessee, turning it into an $11 million fortune. Ronald Reagan also found a way to turn his charisma into cash through Hollywood paychecks. Add to the fact that he was also California's governor and signed multi-million-dollar book and speaking deals, and the $15 million estimation makes sense. Next up is Richard Nixon, who, despite leaving the office in scandal, managed to bounce back fast. His Frost interviews and book royalties managed to rake in a fortune valued at about $13 million. And then there's Senior and Junior Bushes, who enjoyed riches from oil ventures, flipping a stake in the Texas Rangers, and memoirs. Their wealth is estimated to be about $45 million each. It's time to take it a notch even higher and look at the guys whose fortune clocked in between $50 and $100 million, and whose presidential salary was more of a pocket change to them. Starting off this list is FDR, the guy that was born with a silver spoon and a family crest. He was an heir to both the Roosevelt and Delano fortunes, meaning he inherited quite a lot of land, family businesses, and the vast Springwood estate in New York. In today's money, his fortune is around $60 million. John Tyler also came from opulence. He inherited sprawling tobacco plantations in Virginia and was also married to Letitia Christian Tyler, who came from the Christian family of Virginia, one of the state's oldest and most respected plantation dynasties. In today's dollars, Tyler's fortune could be about $50 million. Fast forward more than a century, and Bill Clinton flipped the script. He was born with nothing and also left office nearly broke after paying millions in legal fees from scandals and impeachment battles. It's reported that he even took loans and mortgaged his home to pay some of the bills. Fortunately, his charisma helped him turn the tide as he ventured into speaking tours and book deals that raked in over $100 million. Hoover stands out on this list for making his fortune the old-fashioned way, through sheer grit and hustle. Before the Oval Office, Hoover ventured into mining and engineering across Australia, Burma, South Africa, and China, amassing about $100 million in today's money. Many decades later, Barack Obama took a very different road to wealth. Before making his way to the White House, he was a Harvard-trained lawyer, professor, and U.S. senator. Interestingly, much of his wealth came post-presidency, thanks to his bestseller books, a $65 million publishing deal with Penguin Random House, and a $50 million Netflix contract, pushing his net worth to nearly $100 million. And now, on to the Mega Money League. These are the guys with fortunes north of $100 million each. The kind of fortune that, when combined, can dwarf some country's GDP. Let's start that list with America's original trust fund kid, Theodore Roosevelt. The guy was born into one of New York's richest families. His father was a prominent businessman and philanthropist who helped found institutions like the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the American Museum of Natural History. He made his fortune in glass importing, real estate, and banking, and married Martha Bullock, a Southern belle from a wealthy Georgia plantation family. By the time Teddy assumed office, he was already filthy rich, having already inherited wealth from his parents. Couple that with the over 35 books he wrote and his Sagamore Hill estate, and it's easy to see how his wealth is estimated to have been about $110 million. Another president in the Mega Money League is James Madison, who inherited the Montpelier estate and over 5,000 acres of Virginia farmland from his father. At his peak, he was worth about $140 million. However, a series of setbacks, including poor crop yields, mounting loans, and the cost of maintaining Montpelier after the Revolution, left Madison drowning in debt. Lyndon B. Johnson and his wife Lady Bird also managed to build a media empire in Texas and also owned a 1,500-acre ranch. His investments and assets were estimated to be worth about $100 million. The next name on the list is Andrew Jackson, the ultimate self-made president. Jackson was born on the frontier with nothing. However, he managed to crawl his way up through law, land speculation, and military fame. In the end, his Hermitage plantation in Tennessee spanned over 1,000 acres and needed over 100 enslaved people to work on it. When you add the earnings from his presidency, Jackson is estimated to have been worth about $130 million. A century after Jackson, JFK entered the White House from the opposite side of the spectrum. He was born into wealth, with his father having amassed a vast fortune through banking, stock trading, Hollywood investments, real estate, and public service. And that's not all. His wife, Jackie, also came from the prominent Bouvier family, part of New York's elite social circle. Needless to say, Kennedy's paycheck as president was just a drop in the ocean. His net worth in today's terms, $1 billion. And then there was Thomas Jefferson, whose 5,000-acre Monticello estate once made him one of America's richest men, worth about $250 million today, until debt and poor management brought it all crashing down. Guess who else makes his way into the big boy club? The country's founding father, George Washington. Washington inherited his Virginia estate and expanded it to around 8,000 acres at Mount Vernon. In the end, he owned more than 52,000 acres across several states. He also ventured into the alcohol business, where he operated Mount Vernon Distillery, which was one of the biggest in the country during that time. It was capable of producing nearly 11,000 gallons annually. In today's value, his fortune could be valued at about $590 million. Meanwhile, the current occupant of the Oval Office, Donald Trump, easily tops this list. He inherited his father's wealth, which is about $413 million, and never looked back. He owns skyscrapers, golf resorts, and a media brand. Other assets under DJT's name include his Mar-a-Lago home valued between $300 and $600 million, and a private jet worth about $100 million. It goes without saying, Trump's a multi-billionaire that decided to take up the presidency job to add to his portfolio, with his wealth valued at about $7 billion. Remember to subscribe for more videos like this, and we'll see you soon.